Hey, meaningful movers. Welcome back to Move With Being, the podcast where actions have meaning, words have meaning, and we open up the conversations to discover what's your next move. I'm your host, Krystal. In today's episode, let's talk about how we close the sale and then deliver on it. But y'all know how it is and what we do. We need to set that thing, so let's go ahead and do that. The word of the day is creativity. This is the ability to create new ideas and solutions from a point of imagination in a unique way. I think this is so powerful because this is where we find out how incredibly resourceful and resilient we truly are. Ever saw yourself backed in a corner or presented with a challenging situation where there was no easy answer? Next thing you know, a light bulb goes off and you figured it out. That's enough of me talking about we introduce our guest, and there's no one better to do that than himself. Craig, why don't you give the people a bit of background about yourself and what you gonna share with us today?
Thanks, Krystal. Happy to be here. Thank you for having me. My name's Craig Cooke, and a quick background on myself is most of my career has been in digital marketing. I started a digital-first company way back in 1996, in the 20th century, I like to say, and doing digital transformation work because everything was traditional media at the time. Really started with very modest means and beginning $1,300 in a computer, kind of went at it the old fashioned way, just grinding, and eventually grew it, hit a rapid pace of growth, landing on the Inc. 5000 list 5 years in a row. In early 2012, that started. And then eventually sold the company in 2019 to a world-class digital creative agency and stayed on for a few more years as CEO in my existing role. And then in 2022, I decided to start a whole new chapter in life. And here I am today.
Fantastic. You know what? That's so awesome. Like everyone is looking for that kind of immediate growth that you just mentioned there. Like to go start something, you have this incredible vision. And then a lot of people kind of, when they hit a bump and they're not getting kind of the results that they want, or that story that you just told, it's kind of like one of those things where it's like, I guess this isn't what I thought it was. How was that for you as far as your growth? How did that work for you? How did it take off?
Yeah. Earlier, it's interesting. I think you mentioned the word resilience. And the first 5 years in business was brutal. It was just so painstaking, just so many hours, 80 hours plus per week, 90 hours plus, and no vacations, working holidays, and really grinding with a lot of disappointments, a lot of failures, right? A lot of lessons. That resilience, perseverance really has to kick in. But you really need to retain faith in yourself and advocate a higher power that you will be guided. And as long as you put forth a sincere effort, things will align and happen for you as long as you show up every day. We may talk about a framework for success that I have in my book that touches upon all these things I'm talking about. But once you get to a certain point, things just start to happen. And then, like I mentioned, in 2012, now we started growing, slow growth, but 1996, that was like 16 years. And then suddenly, boom, it was just like we took off. and we're fortunate enough to be able to sell it. And that was really exhilarating, really, really awesome to experience that and all the rapid growth and success that we had.
Fantastic. And real quick before we jump in, you were in independent music, right? Marketing of independent music.
Yes, that was how the idea first came about. So my company's name was Rhythm, and we started off as rhythmnet.com. I was a musician. I'm a rusty musician these days. but I was getting together with a friend of mine. We were playing a lot of music, writing songs and so forth. And I had got this CD-ROM from a computer store, a local computer store. It was called MusicNet. It was a CD-ROM magazine. And the CD-ROM had all these bands that I'd never heard of before. And I was like, wow, it's fascinating, this whole multimedia experience. And at the time, I was experimenting with going online through AOL. I'm way back in the days on 14.4 modems and, a phone line.
Yes.
Yeah. So one thing led to another and just decided to create a website after doing research on the internet. I was fascinated with it and how big it was going to be. So I created rhythmnet.com, which was a site where our byline was discover independent music. So we had all these independent artists on there where people can discover them, read about them, listen to song samples, and buy their CDs online through a secure server way back in 1996.
Yeah.
But it was an idea before its time because there was no broadband, there was no MP3s. There's only 30 million people worldwide online at the time. and everyone was afraid to buy stuff with their credit card online.
Yeah.
And like I said, I started it with two of my friends. We each put in $1,300 a piece, and I had a computer, and that's how we started. And we didn't get any funding or anything like that. It was interesting. We had to adapt after a couple of years. We just changed our focus to being RhythmNet Design Group, designing websites for companies, but kept that independent music website on the side. Eventually, it ended up dying off because we got so busy with becoming an agency, a digital agency, actually. So, it was quite an interesting run, and just all these different pivots and adaptation, which is essential for survival.
Oh, for sure. Talk about faith and belief in oneself.
Mm-hmm.
Some people do that, right? A lot of people, I think, do that, is have this level of creativity and this vision where they can see well beyond where we are today. You could really see where we would be, and to really believe into that. That's dope. So,
thank you.
All right. So you won some awards, best places to work. You then sold the company. So you enjoyed this enormous success and challenges. Not a lot of people wouldn't say joy with challenges, but I think how you mentioned it, it's like you came out on the other side of it, which put you in a greater position, right? A much better position to start your new chapter, which started in 2022.
Yeah.
So what's this chapter we talking about?
So in 2022, in early 2022, I decided to leave the company. And I took time off. I ran the company for 26 years, so I equate each year to a mile. So I ran a marathon, 26 years, 26 miles, right?
Oh, wow.
And I needed a rest. So I took time off and really just started deep introspection, going within to determine, well, what's the next chapter going to look like? Because I can't just sit around and do nothing. And I got to get busy and really be of service in some way. So I determined that my purpose moving forward is to create things that inspire and empower others to help them fulfill their divine potential, is how I phrase it. So everything I do is to serve that purpose. A book that I had been working on for over a decade, actually, I had the time to get it finished, and that serves the purpose. My book, Business Kung Fu, is a book meant to inspire and empower entrepreneurs and business professionals in general on their business journey. That is a component to serve that purpose. I'm doing business mentoring through advisory and consulting services, which is helping people and, again, serving that purpose. And then I also am a Qigong practitioner. I'm actually a doctor of Chinese energetic medicine. I just graduated a couple months ago from this doctorate program I was in. And that's another area where I'm of service to others. And I'm kind of blended all together in this interesting way, still working on defining how all that looks like, but it's coming together.
For sure. So you started with writing your book, Business Kung Fu. You also went into consulting, right? So it's kind of like, I want to stay in the same vein of what I was doing, still focusing on marketing communications. And you started doing brand development, leadership development. Mm-hmm. What were some things that you found in some of the individuals that you were coaching as far as brand development is concerned?
Yes. The reason, too, why I decided to keep going with that is I had this 26 years of experience, all this knowledge. And I thought, wow, what a shame that would be if I didn't continue sharing that, because it is a way to help people. And in particular with brand development, it's interesting because especially these days, there's all these options online, and with the gig economy and, freelancers get a logo for a couple $100 or something like that, right? Go on Fiverr and blah, blah, blah. Sure, that's a way to start, especially if resources are limited. But as you grow, you really need to pay a lot of attention to your brand and how it's defined, because a brand essentially is a promise for a multi-sensory experience that needs to be consistent between the provider of the product or service and then consumer that's consuming that, right? A lot of people don't take the time to clearly define that brand. And if you don't take the time to really articulate it in a verbal format and then reinforce that with a visual language, then it's really setting oneself up to not really be aligned in terms with the marketplace. And that's something that I find is just the kind of fast tracking, skipping the steps to really take a step back and in an ideal setting, clearly define that brand. So that's where I start quite often, is with people is to really clearly articulate and define that brand.
Oh, yeah. I love brand development. I love working with others on their brand development because people almost don't see themselves as a trendsetter. And I'm talking about folks who are hands to keyboard every day, the analyst, the underwriter, right? Just someone who's processing paperwork all day. They don't think that they're almost deserving of a brand. Just working with those individuals is so empowering for me because they actually really have a lot of value that they just overlook a lot of the times. And then when we start to dig into that and you see their eyes light up, it's like you have no idea what doors you just opened for me. I love brand development.
Yeah, that's a good point too, because there's not only from an organizational standpoint, but from an individual standpoint, like you're talking about, like that personal branding, really valuing yourself, understanding the value that you bring to the table. Yeah, that's important. That's cool that you do that.
Yeah. Okay. So second one, leadership development. The reason I like leadership development because leadership, I think, has such an enormous amount of responsibility.
Yes.
Because you're setting an example for others. Because that landscape in the whole leadership world, they hoard that information and they hoard the team that they have. And it's to the point where they almost overlook the team that they have because they're so much into the ego. Oh my God, I'm this leader. I'm in this role versus the true meaning behind that. So how do you work with others as far as leadership development is concerned?
Yeah, those are all great points. The way I base my leadership is on my track record of success because I achieved a certain level of success that speaks for itself. There's a conscious effort to be a specific type of leader. So that's what I want to share with others. And that's how I kind of, through conversations and discussion, and interject and bring in various topics that have to do with leadership, leading a company. One thing that you really touched upon is that example. I always felt that it was paramount to lead by example. I wouldn't ask anyone to do something that I wouldn't be willing to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, I would tell people that, but I was willing to do anything. That was kind of the catch-22, joking aside. Yeah. I was there on the front line, like the general in the battle who's on the front line with the troops. It just felt that was the proper way to lead by example, one. Two, this more open, transparent, heart-centered approach to leadership. That was my style, is my style. I feel that's important. There's the old, antiquated lead by fear style. I'm not a fan of. There's a tendency with those types of leaders you mentioned the ego. A lot of ego comes into play, a lot of hoarding, a lot of control rather than manage, but to control. And just a certain mindset that isn't conducive to the overall well-being of everybody in the organization, right? It's really leading by example, having a heart-centered approach so that you're leading a team together. You're a team working to achieve goals and objectives and accomplish a mission to fulfill a vision and serve a purpose at the end of the day, which goes back to the branding part, right? Because I bring that in, and then through leadership, you have to live your brand, and there's a lot of purpose and vision and mission. It's so important with my company. You mentioned best places to work. We won that 4 years in a row. At the same time, we were on the Inc. 5000 list 5 years in a row. We actually stopped applying because we were just so busy. We just forget it. We're too busy to apply this year. There's a lot of great things. Of course, there's tons of mistakes, but that's how you learn. I made so many mistakes, but that's how you learn, as long as you acknowledge the mistake and, I won't do that again. So, yeah.
Keyword for me there was acknowledge. Ooh, yes. So many people just do not want to acknowledge that they made a mistake. I love acknowledging, like saying, you know what, I realized I messed up on that one, right? But this is what I learned from it. It's almost as if you can acknowledge that and then follow it up with what you learned from it. And it makes the acknowledgement much more palatable, so much more attractive to do, I think, always.
And when you're leading by example, the other team members that you're interacting with see that, and they can embody that as well. There's one, I'll share a real quick story. This one example, we were doing this project for a large national bank, and it was a CD-ROM project way back in the day when CD-ROMs were cool. Coming down to the wire. And of course, they wanted to shortcut the review process, and they wanted to rush the job at the end. And I couldn't stand rush jobs because there'd always be something would go wrong when people rush. And I knew better. And I said, okay, fine. Well, we'll get it out to you. And, I sent them the disc, and I don't remember all the details, but we went ahead, expedited it, and sent the disc out to the replication factory, because we would handle the whole replication and packaging, printing, all that stuff. Did 100,000 units, shipped them out. And then a day or two later, I get a call. Hey, these CDs aren't working. What? What are you talking about? It's working. What are you talking about? No, it's not. Once you get like 7 minutes in, it stops. It freezes. I'll call you back. And then I sat down with one of my main leaders in the company. We're looking at it. And he was the one who was leading the overall design and development of this. Sure enough, it was frozen at this certain point. And I was like, oh my God. And then he felt horrible. And it was big credit to him, because he said, oh, I know what happened. And there was something that he didn't do or switch or something, with programming and so forth. And he felt awful. I could see it. Because it was a big mistake, because I told him that we were going to fix it. And then this was a decision point too, because I could have said, well, you guys rushed it and you knew the implications, right? But I said, no, we'll take care of it. We'll recall all those. We'll pick them up, and then we'll run a whole new batch of 100,000 and send them back out right away. And at the time, this is probably around 2008 or so, I think it cost us like $50,000. It was a $50,000 hit. Today's dollars, that's probably more like $150,000 with inflation, how crazy it is, right? Yeah. And it's for a small business, big hit.
Yeah.
We did that. And with my team member, my colleague, I said, you know what? That's a mistake for sure. Like, wow, should have caught that. But you know what? I also agreed to a rush job. And if we hadn't rushed it, we would have caught that. So I have to take responsibility as well. And he's like, oh, yeah. I guess a load come off his shoulders a bit.
Yeah.
And and both of us, it was a huge lesson. We acknowledged it, like, we're not doing that again. Yeah. And then that client was super appreciative, and the end client went through this other client that was white labeling us, and they're the ones bringing us all these opportunities. They were, okay, great. They were happy that we took care of it, kept giving us work until they ended up selling their company. I mean, we made millions of dollars over years with them, continuous. But if I would have taken a different route, that could have ended that relationship as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. Look at that. So Qi Kung practitioner.
Yes, Qigong, yes.
This is pretty cool, because you actually practiced the martial arts and then you incorporated it into your business. I love doing stuff like this, by the way. So tell me about where this influence came from and this inspiration from the martial arts practice that led you to blending this to higher levels of success?
And you mentioned creativity. One aspect of creativity is, I find that I do really well, is taking two different things that I'm passionate about and combining it to create something new. Like when I started the company, this passion for music and a passion for technology blended together to create something new. At the time, I was really training quite a bit with Chinese Kung Fu, is what I trained from age 17 to 25. And I started my company at 25. It was really had a huge impact on my life. It really got me on a positive direction. My teacher was from New York City, and met him at 17. I'm in California. And it was just a really great thing that happened for me in my life. It had such a profound impact. I really thought about the martial arts philosophy and how it applies to everything in life, really. So as I was naturally running the company, I was applying various principles from martial arts into how to have the right mindset, for one, and to be disciplined. And then also, even like from a structural standpoint and a business model standpoint, how to leverage those teachings and principles into the business. And then fast forward to 2014, I came across Qigong, and you mentioned Qigong. And now I had experience with martial Qigong from those days, but then in 2014, I came across a medical Qigong practitioner. And there's 3 branches of Qigong, traditionally martial, medical, and spiritual. This gentleman practiced the medical spiritual part. It had another profound impact on me, because at the time I was really out of balance with myself, just mentally, emotionally, and juggling so much stuff. And it really got me centered and balanced. And it had such a profound impact on me. He asked me if I wanted to learn how to do that work. And I said, absolutely. So I started training and learning how to do that work too. That was in 2014. So it's been 10 years. And like I said, I just graduated from a doctorate program on that. And that's very influential and impactful with what I'm doing today.
Cool. What made you start to say, okay, I want to build on this and apply those same principles to success? because I did the same thing. So I want to hear what happened with you that brought you into this building a foundation, right?
Yes, right. Building a foundation, right? And that's what I write about with chapter 1 in my book, Business Kung Fu, is building a foundation. Everything starts with the foundation. And that's how I learned martial arts. You have to learn your stances and strengthen your base, your foundation, and learn punches and blocks and kicks, like the basics. And it's all part of a foundation that works together. And the same thing with my company, had to build that foundation. It was rooted in website development, which had a whole variety of aspects to it. But then there was other skill sets that came along, like email marketing and search marketing and so forth. And it all came together, and it was being built upon a foundation. And then with the Qigong practice, same thing. You're working with the energetic anatomy. Just like we have a physical anatomy, we have an energetic anatomy. This energetic anatomy, you cultivate this energetic anatomy through various Qigong exercises that are like a moving meditation, actually. And then there's also static meditation as well. And it's all cultivating the energy, building up energy, opening up the energetic channels to be able to work with qi, energy as the Chinese culture calls it, to have an impact on your growth. The way I like to categorize it in 3 areas is there's healing, self-transformation, and then also optimization. And any one of us at any point in time could use all 3 of those areas or be in one of those buckets. Either in a straight line or just kind of bouncing around. It's interesting. Life throws a bunch of curveballs at us. Yep. And typically these curveballs get us all out of balance, just emotionally and mentally. And then from that can manifest into physical diseases if it keeps persisting over time, over a prolonged period of time. So Qigong addresses all that. And it's just a fantastic modality for healing, transformation, and optimization.
Goodness. Tell me about these 5 elements of success.
Yes. So in chapter 1 of my book, Business Kung Fu, I write about the 5 elements of success. And it's based on Chinese 5-element theory, which is a philosophy or theory that is thousands of years old and covers various aspects in life, such as martial arts and medicine, but also music, food, spiritual systems. And essentially, there's these 5 elements that constitute everything in reality, including us. That's fire, earth, metal, water, and wood. And these elements operate in cycles. And they also have interrelationships with each other that could be positive or negative based on a conditional state, whether they are in excess or in a deficient state. And it's all about balance at the end of the day, the balance of the constitution of these elements. Through my personal experience as an entrepreneur and my observation of others and their success and failures, my success and failures, I identified 5 elements of success, and leveraging this 5-element theory is really profound. How it just kind of an inspirational moment of creativity, like you talk about, that came to me and hit me. And the 5 elements I identified are passion, and passion fuels discipline. Then discipline builds expertise. Expertise leads to confidence. And then confidence extends to faith. And it's a generative cycle where each of those elements helps build the subsequent element. And then it could go the other direction, though, too, where elements can diminish. And then as they diminish, it's more of a downward negative cycle. And then these relationships between the elements based on a state of balance or imbalance can have a positive or negative impact on each other.
I like how you had the verbs in between those, the action and the verb. Yeah, I really like that. That was a really cool
Thank you.
Building block. Like it's like a step. As you were saying, I was like, oh my gosh, it's like a maturity model. Like it's just a step above. That's so cool.
Yeah, because it's a process. It's a cycle.
Yeah.
And the cycle, it's moving and you're evolving through it. Or devolving, depending on your state of mind. And my book is essentially a mindset book at the end of the day. And your state of mind is so important.
Oh my God.
In your success.
I always say that you could have all the great characteristics. It's like the mind trick. You can have all the great characteristics that you need to succeed. But if you have the wrong mindset, it warps it. So, you have to be so careful, because people without that self-examination, they will try to do more. And it's like, no, you're actually fine with exactly where you are. It's just this mindset that we have to shift. That's the only thing. And that's really cool that you called that out. Very cool.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I think a good example of that, if we look at the element of confidence, for example, if someone has a lack, a deficiency of that element, then there's all this fear that they're contending with. And fear is paralyzing. It stops people in their tracks, just like you're talking about, right? Yeah. Now, if we look at an excess state where there's too much confidence, that's not good either. The excess state of confidence that leads to arrogance, where the ego comes in and allows it to get in the way also, where the arrogance is like, oh, I'm so good, I don't need to bother doing X, Y, or Z. And that's where it has a negative impact on the element of discipline, because there's the interrelationship between confidence and discipline. And so the deficient and excess condition are both not ideal. The proper mindset is to have a balanced state of confidence. So then it can then extend to faith.
Yeah. Oh, very cool. Very cool. A quick plug to you then for everyone. You can get that first chapter at your website, huh?
Yes. First chapter for free at my website. Yes.
Okay. I'm going to go check it out. We had a very energetic talk. I think that
Thank you.
So, Craig, do you have any golden nuggets that you just wanted a little bit of catch up to recap for the folks?
Well, there is one important concept that I also share in my book that we didn't touch upon yet. And it is something that I feel is really important. And I have a saying in my book that states, be of service to self so you can be of service to others for a lifetime. I learned this lesson through a bad mistake of mine where I was constantly doing for others and not taking care of myself. And when I started the company, I was in great shape from all the martial arts and strength training that I used to do. And then 10 years later, I was on the opposite end of the spectrum. And then several years after that, I learned I was diagnosed with the condition of diabetes. And it all started to make sense why I had foggy brain and I was crashing at night on the couch and all these things, right? That was impeding my performance and my ability to perform like I used to. So I determined I'm going to beat this and I'm going to do it naturally. I didn't want to take any medication and just went about changing my lifestyle and being of service to myself first. And that's how I started my day, was to be of service to myself. And then over the course of time, I'm happy to report that I've reversed that condition 100%, where I do not have diabetes. That it's all the numbers are good now. And now I have the energy and ability to be of service to others for a lifetime, because I'm not going back to that other state. And I feel like I did when I was in my 20s. It's amazing.
Yeah, very cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's the episode today. I think it is important to note that everyone defines success differently. For some, individual success is all they need, while others look for other ways they can apply their skills and spread their impact. It doesn't matter which one you fit in. We all have this creative spirit, which, means we don't fit in at all, do we? We stand out. I truly hope that Craig's journey has generated some fresh ideas. Which one of his 5 elements of success ignited a spark in you? I love it all, and so will someone else. Before I let you go, Craig, why don't you go ahead and remind the people who you are, where they can find your resources, or reach out to you?
Sure. Thank you so much, Krystal. So Craig Cooke, and my website is c2pro.io. That's the letter C and then squared, spelled out, pro.io, c2pro.io. In the book section, people can download the first chapter of Business Kung Fu for free. Then Business Kung Fu is available on Amazon. I hope to get it on Barnes & Noble here pretty soon, but Amazon, you can pick it up there. Another great way to get a hold of me, other than my website, filling out the contact form, also on LinkedIn. I check that regularly, and you can easily find me on LinkedIn, just Craig Cooke with the E at the end of Cook. So, yeah.
Fantastic. I'll make sure to include all of Craig's resources and connections in the episode description, as well as on my website's resources page, movingwithme.com. Make sure you guys subscribe to the show, Moving With Me in the podcast, and tap that alert bell so you know when these episodes drop. I am on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, and YouTube Music. Please share, like, repost, and follow. Tag someone. We are creating a community here. Quick housekeeping before you go. Follow me on Instagram at movingwithmeanie82 and on Pinterest at Arthur KB Clark. Also, connect with me on LinkedIn. I do dabble in TikTok at Krystal B. Clark. My Etsy store has some handy dandy digital downloads. Lastly, run over to my YouTube channel and have a look or two. Links are in the episode. Alrighty, I'm Krystal on Moving With Me in the podcast, reminding you to take it one step at a time. All moves have meaning. Check y'all later.